Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at one of the most unique chapters in all of Scripture. It is Numbers chapter 22, and the title of this video is Balaam's Donkey. So we have 41 verses to look at. We can see here, beginning in the first verse, we see the west of Moab, described in the Septuagint. The Masoretic says it's in the plains of Moab, so it's not west. According to the Masoretic, it's saying it's just a general location, the plains. In verse 2, Bela, uh, which is probably the Hebrew version of Balak. So Bela is the son of Zippor in the Septuagint. Verse 3, we see the word exceedingly. The people feared, I should say Moab feared the people, meaning Israel, exceedingly because they were many. So they were very afraid versus they were sore afraid. In either case, similar. And it says they were grieved. Moab was grieved before the face of the children of Israel. So most likely the children of Israel could see just how they reacted because it was in front of their face, or at least in front of them, if not face to face. The Masoretic is saying that Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. And that is redundant because it said that earlier that they were afraid. So now it's saying, okay, they were distressed. Uh, in any case, it's negative. It's a negative reaction to Israel. But we can see that in the Septuagint, at least, the children of Israel, the reaction of Moab was before the face. Whether Israel can see them or not doesn't say, but perhaps it's open to that possibility. Verse 5, skipping over there, we see the word ambassadors being used in the Septuagint versus messengers. We see next in verse 5 again, close to me. It says, behold, a people has come out of Egypt, and behold, it has covered the face of the earth, and it has encamped, this people has encamped close to me. So they're close in proximity. Perhaps that's what they meant by before their face. So they were near proximity. So if they couldn't see it, at least it was done in close proximity to them, their reaction of fear. Versus, they abide over against me. So we can see the difference, the distinction in the Septuagint is that it's talking about the proximity of Israel to Moab, and in this instance to Balaam, the son of Beor. In the Masoretic, it's talking more of a military or strategic motive to overthrow, meaning Israel is there against them. It could mean on opposite end, the opposite end of this area, or it could mean that they are against them. They're there because they're trying to overthrow me. I can't say which one it is. However, I can only tell you what the Septuagint says, that they are in close proximity. Verse 6, it says they are stronger than we. They're describing Israel because there's so many of them. It could be numbers. It could just be strength because they heard what uh, what Yah had done for them, taking them out of Israel and taking them out of Egypt, rather, destroying the world's greatest superpower at that time. And it says in the Maz, too mighty for me. In either case, they are strong. They are a force to 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 reckon. to be reckoned with. And we see an addition here. I, Bela, shall prevail. Right here. Peradventure, I shall prevail. Oh no, that's not the right verse, is it? Verse 6. And it says, I shall prevail. Okay. So, peradventure, I shall prevail. That's not there in the original Septuagint. Moving on to verse 7, we see another addition. It says, they departed, the elders of Moab and Midian, departed with the rewards of divination. So the rewards of was added. I'm not sure how to understand that. What is a reward of divination? Is that something you receive because of you being a diviner? Or is it something that they acquired as a result of winning a battle? It's hard to say. Again, there's a lot of questions here, not easily discerned. So I leave that open because if I don't know it, I'm not going to pretend I know it. Verse 9, who are these men with you? This is Yah speaking to Balaam. Verses saying, what men are these with you? I mean, Yah knows they are men. Why would he be asking what men? It makes more sense to ask, who are these men? Identify these men. At least in looking at grammar, you're looking at who, not what. Obviously, they're men. Moving on to verse 11, we see an omission here. The omission is, and it has encamped near to me. Again, talking about Israel. And then we see here, smite it. I shall be able to smite it. Kill them. There's another way to put smite. Versus overcome them, which is to overpower them. We can see that their intention is to kill them, not just overpower them or subdue them. Verse 13, depart quickly to your Lord. This is Balaam speaking to the princes of Bela or Balak in the Greek. So Balak is Greek. Bela sounds like that could be Hebrew. Depart quickly to your Lord. Elohim does not permit me to go with you. Versus get you into your land. So instead of go to your master, he's saying get into your land. So it doesn't mean they have to go back to the master. They could just return to their land and just ignore him. But no, that's not what the Septuagint is saying. He's telling them specifically, go to your master, go to whom you serve. And then the Masoretic continues on here to say, for Yah refuses to give me leave to go with you. So similar sentiment. So the first indicates urgency. In the Septuagint, go quickly. I didn't notice that when I just read that here, but in my notes, it does say there's definitely more urgency when you think of depart quickly. And there's a greater authority that must be respected, which is Yah, Elohim. The latter is not so urgent. Just go to your land. I don't care when, just you go. And a temperament of a human being rather than an Elohim. Okay, how do I make sense of that? What's a temperament of human being rather than the temperament of God or Elohim? So we can see that in 13, it is the authority of Elohim, of Yah Elohim, telling Balaam, you're not allowed to go. You have not been given permission or authority to go. But in the Masoretic, it just sounds like this Elohim is more human-like. He just refuses to give him leave. I refuse to give you leave. Anyway, it could just be the way I read it at the time, but in either case, he's not given permission. It's not that he's refusing, but it could just be a lot of semantics, to be honest. So let's move on. We can see, let's see. I beseech you, delay not to come to me, versus let nothing, I pray you, hinder you from coming to me. Okay, it's the same. I'm going to ignore that. I should have ignored it. Okay. Verse 17, it says to ignore it, but I'm going to read it simply because we have parentheses. It says, for I will greatly honor you, versus I will promote you to very great honor. So we can see one is more vague. The other is more specific to a place of status or authority, or perhaps even office. So it sounds like the Septuagint in this case is more vague as to what that means to honor him. But 17 sounds like he's being promoted to a position. And so the Masoretic sounds like it's being more specific as to what that is. However, it just sounds more open to a lot of different opportunities and maybe authority. It's hard to say in the Septuagint what that's alluding to. Verse 18, I shall not be able to go, versus I cannot go. So we can see the Septuagint as he's been commanded to obey. Balaam is respecting that the authority of Yah. So he's saying, I have been commanded. I shall not. I have been commanded. So I shan't. I can't. I should not. He's been commanded. When someone is commanded, the word shall is usually accompanied by the order, versus I am unable to go. I cannot. I'm unable to. There's a clear fear of Yah in the Septuagint as far as Balaam is concerned, versus in the Masoretic, he seems to be an automaton. I just can't go. I'm just programmed. It's against my programming to go. Like he is no longer an agent of free will, capable of making his own decisions. And we know that's not the case. We're all agents of free will. We have the ability to decide for ourselves. But we can see in the Septuagint, it is respecting Balaam as a independent creature, able to discern and make a decision. Would you like to go? And he respects the will of Yah in this situation. So the sense here, in the next part of this verse, it says, to make it little, I shall not be able to go beyond the word of Yah. Okay, actually, it's not talking about going. He's talking about, I shall not be able to go beyond the word of Yah. So that's the context. So it is taken out of context when I didn't read the rest of it. And what he's talking about is to make it little or great in my mind, versus to do less or more. So the sense here is that Balaam shall not turn to the right or the left. Or it could be possibly understood as, I cannot take away or add to what Yah has said or will say. So it's an interesting way that it's been expressed here, to make it little or great. So we can't take away or diminish or even add. And it seems to be relatively similar. I'm not going to make up some difference that isn't really there, but there is a slight difference. Okay, but not a major difference in this verse. Looking ahead to verse 22 now. Very angry is the wording here. Elohim was very angry, versus was kindled. His anger was kindled. So we can see he was not just a little angry or was disappointed. He was very angry. He was super angry. On the other hand, the Masoretic is saying that, okay, he started to get angry like a little fire. When you kindle a fire, it's a small thing. It isn't serious yet. No, it is serious. And it was serious enough he brought an angel to withstand him, it says, or to resist him. The Masoretic does not describe the angel as withstanding him, but describes him as an adversary against him, like an enemy, antagonistic. And this is where the chapter gets very interesting. We see an omission here that uh, Balaam smote the donkey, the ass, or the ass in British. He smote the ass with his staff. So the omission was hitting the ass with his staff. I hope I don't get demonetized or whatever. Not that I'm being monetized, but uh, it's donkey. That's what the word is. I'll just say donkey from now on, just in case. So Balaam smote the donkey, his donkey, with his staff. He didn't just hit it with, his hand or something like a knife. No, he used the staff. So he used the appropriate instrument to do that. You have people who ride horses and they also take a whip or whatever. Uh, and we can see in verse 24 that it's using the term a fence. The angel of Yah stood in the avenues of the vines, a fence on this side and a fence on that. So we can see the difference here, that it's saying it's a wall in the Masoretic, it's not a fence. So it seems even more narrow, even more uh, harder to maneuver. Whereas a fence, still a strong structure, but a wall is completely solid, whereas a fence could possibly be walked through if you were small enough. Verse 29, we see that the donkey uh, the mouth of the donkey was opened, which calls to question, okay, so that means Elohim closed the mouth of the donkey and all animals. And I believe it's the book of Jubilees or Jasher, I'm not sure at the moment. But one of those books describes that after Adam and Eve had chosen the tree of the knowledge of learning the knowledge of good and evil, all the mouths of the animals were closed, and they spoke one language at that time. Perhaps it was the language that we're speaking right now, not English, but I mean the language of mankind, whatever that one language was. That's very interesting because it explains why Elohim was able to open the mouth, because the mouth was closed in the first place, or was closed somewhere down the line or earlier in the history of of civilization, and in this case, of the animals and their ability to express themselves in a way that we could understand. And we can see Balaam is not questioning this this phenomenon. He's just going with it. He's just so angry that that he's just talking to the donkey. It's like it's a normal thing. Uh, and we see the donkey asking the question, "Why have you hit me this third time?" And Balaam responds to him in verse 29, "Because you have mocked me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would now have killed you." Because he's striking him with his staff. So if it was a sword, you would have been dead by now because I hit you 3 times. I think that's how it's being expressed. The Masoretic is expressing it a lot differently. I would there were a sword in my hand, for now would I kill you. So he sounds a lot more cruel. I wish I had a sword so I could kill you. So it sounds like he's being circumstantial in the Septuagint, like to say, if you're lucky I had a staff, because if it wasn't a staff, you'd be dead by now. Not that he wants to kill the donkey, but he's just saying that, I'm being merciful to you. In the Masoretic, he sounds a lot more cruel. Again, saying, oh, I wish I had a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you. I'd hit you more than these 3 times. The Septuagint is saying, hey, I hit you 3 times, and those 3 times, by now you'd be dead if there was a sword. That's the way I understand it. Um, and another addition I made here in my notes was Balaam is saying, if I was cruel like other people, you would be dead, but I am merciful since I didn't use a sword. Verses in the Masoretic, I want to kill you. I just want to kill you outright. Verse 30, the donkey responds to Balaam, not I, your donkey, on which you have ridden since your youth till this day. So he's telling him, I remember everything we've been through. I've been with you since you were young until this day. And perhaps this donkey, maybe you acquired the donkey when it was just a baby donkey, and then grew up with them. I don't know, possibly. And the Masoretic is saying, am I not your donkey, which you have ridden ever since uh, ever since I was yours, and to this day? So we can see there's a clear relationship in the Septuagint that Balaam grew up with this donkey. The donkey remembers. I remember growing up with you. You were just a youth, but maybe he was a kid or a teenager. In either case, he was not an adult because he was a youth. And now he's older now. And most likely, I'm going to speculate this donkey, depending on the lifespan of a donkey, probably was a newborn and they grew up together. Okay, let me just pause and look up the lifespan of a donkey. Okay, so we can see here that the average lifespan of a donkey, uh, it says minimum, I'd say 12 years, but they may have a lifespan up to 50 years. And this one says 25 to 30 years. In either case, it sounds like Balaam, if he was a teenager when he got him, say he was between 10 to 20 years old, then this donkey was with him for at least 10 years. So he should be around 20 to 30 years old, maybe even older. But let's just go by the 20-year average lifespan, 2025. So Balaam, let's say he got this donkey at 10 years old, then that would mean he's around 30. So I think that's a safe assumption, meaning that this donkey truly did grow up with him. I've been with you since you were 10 years old. Have I ever done this to you? Did I ever do thus to you, utterly disregarding you? And Balaam responded, no. The Masoretic renders it this way. Was I ever wont to do so unto you? Did I ever was I inclined to do something like this? And he said, no. But we can see the donkey has even more respect. So not only does Balaam look bad in the Masoretic, even the donkey looks bad. But the Septuagint makes both of them look like very reasonable individuals, where Balaam is more merciful, and even the donkey is more honorable as well, saying, have I ever done this to you, utterly disregarding you, to disrespect him? You can see that this donkey is very sensible. And then let's look at the next part here. Okay, utterly disregarding. So again, this was omitted, not just to do this, but to utterly disregard. And this could be implying disregarding his instructions as to where to go, when to stop, and so on. Verse 31, it says, and he stooped down, Balaam, after Elohim opened his eyes, he saw the angel of Yah standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand, a frightful sight. I mean, I think a lot of men's natural instinct, if they see a giant Kodiak bear 10 feet tall, or a giant lion or a giant crocodile, anything, that can kill us, we would be afraid. But this takes the cake, is probably much more frightening than any of those or all of those put together. So you can imagine what his reaction was. It says it right here. He stooped down and worshiped on his face. So he didn't just bow down his head like that and fell on his face, fell flat on his face. He actually prostrated, and he worshipped. He wasn't just going down and falling like it was an accident. He intentionally is worshiping this entity, believing possibly this is God or a form of, it's a being that's not from this planet. This is otherworldly, supernatural, and scary too. He's got a sword trying to kill him. And we can see verse 32, the angel of Elohim said to him, "Why have you hit your donkey this third time? And behold, I came out to withstand you, for your way was not seemly before me." The Masoretic renders it this way: because your way is perverse before me. Uh, Again, the language is much more kinder in the Septuagint to Balaam, that his way was just not seemly. This was not fitting. This was not, I didn't approve of this. Yah does not approve of this, what you're doing. So that's why I'm there. Not that he was perverse, like perverted or something like that. Verse 34, we see an omission that, let's just read this part. It's interesting. It's a very interesting story. If she had not turned out of the way, talking about the donkey, surely now I would have killed you and should have saved her alive only. I'm just adding only because he would be dead. The donkey would be alive, obviously. So she would be the only one alive out of the two of them. Uh, the Masoretic renders it this way: and the donkey saw me and turned from me these three times, unless she had uh, turned from me, surely now also I had killed you and saved her life. So same thing being expressed. Verse 34, an omission, like I said, it says, standing opposite in the way. This Balaam responding to the angel, I did not know that you were standing opposite in the way to do what? To meet me. So that is omitted. The Masoretic is saying, I have sinned, for I knew not that you stood in the way against me. So is he meeting him? And what is he meeting him for? But it's saying that you're against me, like you're trying to kill me, or you're just opposite me. But in either case, I think meet is less antagonistic, less of a threat, that he's simply trying to just stop him, that he's meeting him in the way. Okay, moving on to verse 35, another omission here. Take heed. It says here, the angel of Yah said to Balaam, go with the men. Nevertheless, the word which I speak to you, and you shall take heed to speak. So he's kind of reiterating, he's stressing the importance of his attentiveness, that Balaam should not ignore it. You shall take heed. Don't let this go in 1 year and go out the other one. We can see in the Masoretic it just says, I shall speak to you, and you shall speak. No, he's stressing that this is important. You shall take heed. You're going to listen to what I have to say. You're going to want to do this. Verse 37, and another addition here. It says here, promote you. Am I not able indeed to promote you to honor? So it seems to imply again a position of authority, whereas Bela is simply saying, I'm going to honor you. And that still means something great. Doesn't I think the Masoretic is taking some liberties to say, I'm going to give you a position. No, that doesn't seem to be saying that, but it could be saying a lot of things. Could be giving him a gift, a reward, could be him giving a position, but it doesn't tell him. It just leaves it open to infinite possibilities in terms of what Bela can do for him. Because not everyone wants a position. Some people just want gold or whatever else without having to have responsibilities added on their whatever responsibilities they already have. So that's verse 37. Verse 38, another omission in this verse. Now come to you. It says, Balaam said to Bela, behold, I am now come to you. Shall I be able to say anything? Okay. How is this different than the Masoretic? Balaam said to Balak, look, I am come to you. Okay. Have I now any power at all to say anything? So I wouldn't say it's a massive difference, but it looks like they just moved the word now to the second part of that sentence. So I'm not going to harp on that one too much. Verse 39, we're ignoring that. Look in the description box for all these ignored verses. Verse 41, we see the morning. It was morning, and Bela took Balaam. So we can see it is specifically the morning before 12, most likely between 6 to maybe 12 o'clock, maybe even 11. It's hard to say. Anyway, the time that McDonald's serves breakfast is probably when it was. And in verse 41 of the Masoretic, it says on the morrow. So it could be any time. The morrow is the next day. It could be any time. Could be the afternoon, could be the evening. No, it's actually the morning, according to the Septuagint. Sets that straight. And another part here, we see a part of the people. Balaam says, Bela took Balaam and brought him up to the pillar of this word here, I won't say it, and showed him there a part of the people. Verses that he might see the utmost of the people, which could mean the farthest or more, let me redo that. The utmost of the people, which could mean the farthest or most distant point, the extreme limit. Why would he look at the most farthest distant point? Doesn't make sense to me. It does make sense that he would show him a part of the people because there's just so many of them. You can't see every single person, and maybe there is a place where you took him that you could see a large portion of the people, but this is a part of the people, because if he saw all the people, then it would say explicitly he saw all the people, and there are millions of people. How can you see all of them? That would mean you need to organize an event or a time where they just happen to all be gathering at the same time. And that's just not feasible, is it? So that's all I have for this video today. Again, this is one of the most interesting chapters in all of Scripture, simply just because it's a talking donkey. We haven't had another instance of a talking animal besides potentially in the Garden of Eden, where it seems to be a serpent. Could be a serpent, could be an angel when he manifested as it says, a serpent of old. Again, some people interpret as a shining one. Could be an angel that he manifested as an angel, not as a snake. But in either case, this chapter of Numbers 22 is one of the most interesting in my mind. We even have pop culture referencing this character in movies like Shrek with a talking donkey, like it is some sort of fairy tale, when it is more real than even us in some ways, because this is recorded in Scripture. A lot of people will not recorded in Scripture. A lot of us, we're just going to live and die, and people will forget us, and our memory will be forgotten. But this has been memorialized in Numbers chapter 22, as a witness to this account of what what had happened, where God opened the mouth of Balaam's donkey. So thank you very much for your time. May Yah Elohim bless you and make your way prosperous. Till next time, you've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom and peace unto you.